everybody. This is Monica Perez here with a good friend of the show, a returning guest, an extraordinary researcher, always bringing super interesting stuff, going as far down the rabbit hole as a person can go and still clawing his way back out of the grave. Chris Graves, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's always a
So
pleasure.
we have had some great conversations, and you suggested we talk about something you've dug into that I have never. It was before the scales fell from my eyes, so I didn't clue into it, and I never returned to the topic. But I know it's like a seminal moment in modern false flaggery. So the Virginia Tech shooting, I already took it off Facebook and Insta even before they took it off for us. So this is going to be a little, it's going to burn your fingers, but we can just keep aware of the strikes as they cascade down my, my social media. All right. So let's, so why did you pick this anyway? Why did you say this? Did you fall into a hole within a hole?
Well, I had been researching Columbine.
Oh, right. Chris, you've already frozen completely.
Oh no! Oh no!
May I
Okay.
suggest that you turn the video off and we just do this
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
old-fashioned way, caveman style, as my brother would say.
Caveman.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, that's much better. So you were doing Columbine, that's right. And this, from the little I gathered about this may have been, this guy was a fan of Columbine, right?
Yeah. The killer or the suspect, the shall I say Patsy, he had a manifesto and he actually credited Eric Harrison, Dylan Klebold for paving the way for him. He actually wrote that or said that in his manifesto, which he sent to NBC News. In between, he actually FedExed it in between the shootings, actually, which is kind of weird because it all began at Virginia Tech. It began with the first series of shootings. Why don't I take it? Here's the official Wikipedia thing for anyone that's not familiar with the Virginia Tech shooting from April 16th, 2007. This is just the official story here. The Virginia Tech shooting was a spree shooting that occurred on Monday, April 16th, 2007, comprising two attacks on the campus of the Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University of Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. Sung Hae Cho, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Well, yeah, it sounds kind of weird, but
Show is
Cho,
fine.
we'll just say Cho, an undergraduate student at the university, killed 32 people and wounded 17 others with two semi automatic pistols. Six others were injured jumping out of windows to escape Cho. Okay, so the reason I chose this one, because I feel like not too many people really talked about it that
Right.
much. I mean, they did in the alternative media or the conspiracy circles. They did talk about it and had articles. That's why I was able to compile a bunch of links and things like that because people did talk about it, but it kind of got lost in the shuffle during the War on Terror. Because this actually happened. This was one of the rare occasions where during George W. Bush's reign of terror, you didn't really hear too much about shootings, spree shootings, too much, or school shootings rather. That was more of the Clinton era, like with Columbine and a couple other high profile shootings. And
But
then
it came
later on with
back with Obama.
Obama with a vengeance. Yeah, exactly. And this was one of those rare times where George W. Bush had to do a press conference where he didn't quite do the shedding a tear thing that Obama did, like with that Sandy thing. Um, but anyway, I kind of, not to go off the rails too much, but this was exactly around the time that Dennis Kucinich was bringing about. How do you put it articulately? He was trying to get the process started in trying to impeach Dick Cheney
Kucinich
around this
was?
very time. Yes,
Yeah.
right around this very
He was
time.
good.
And this kind
They got you.
It's
So,
it's just
okay, all right,
strange.
so this maybe was a distraction, perhaps?
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, it could be a coincidence, you never know, but, sometimes like for instance, with Columbine, that happened that occurred the same week that, Clinton, with Kosovo, that whole thing, which kind of around the same time, people were, at home at least, were paying more attention to, Columbine than what was going overseas with Kosovo, with Bill Clinton. So sometimes with these events, you have to question what else is going on around the same time.
Yeah,
You
good
know,
point.
'Cause even with September 11th, I don't think too many people know this, but I believe, there were. The late Bill Cooper was trying to get some kind of a trial for, his tax, situation around that same time. I'm not saying that September 11th, happened because they wanted to,
Well, what was the
just.
day that they murdered him? I'll
Well,
look
that
that
was
up.
it. That was about 2 months later, and that's a whole other thing. Believe me, Monica. There's actually
November
evidence.
5th, 2001. Yeah.
That's right. There was actually evidence that, Bill Cooper was supposed to be arrested on September 11th, 2001, and
Which, by the way,
yeah,
I just typed in Bill Cooper on my phone,
yeah,
and as I said to you, what day did he die? And what came up on my phone was just the day that he died.
November 5th, 2001.
But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I didn't type in Bill Cooper death. I just typed in Bill Cooper.
Wow. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's there was,
See?
his. Oh, I believe you. Oh,
I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah.
know it's ridiculous, like, obviously, but I'm just saying, it still freaks me out.
Well, his best friend, Bill Cooper's best friend Doyle Shamley, he was able to. I think he was able to find a search warrant or something, uh, that was dated for September 11th, 2001, and the significance of that is Bill Cooper and not Alex Jones. Alex Jones did have a video about, where he claimed, he that people like to cite for him predicting 9/11, but Bill Cooper actually predicted 9/11 a month before that. And him and Alex and Bill, they had a weird relationship. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, regardless of that, I'm getting away from the whole thing. But
Yeah,
yes,
that's true.
sometimes I get OCD pretty bad. Sometimes with these events, you have to question what other things may be going on in the news or in the world at the same time, because sometimes these things can be used as distractions. That might not be the whole purpose for the operation or whatever, but you never know. So with, Virginia Tech, um, what exactly? Let me ask you this: what exactly do you remember from that? I know it was before you were kind of hip to all the corruption, how deep
Yeah.
it goes, everything. But what exactly do you remember, if you don't mind me asking?
Honestly, I
Yeah.
thought it was the same as the Texas thing. The
Oh, okay.
snipers from the tower in Texas. I didn't realize there were 2 different things. Is there a Texas Tech? Was that shooting at Texas Tech?
Oh,
Remember
you're
the
going.
guy way
Oh, you're
back?
going. Yeah, you're going back to
Yeah.
Charles Whitman in 1966. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it just wasn't
University
on my
of.
radar. Yeah.
That was probably the first, actual high-profile, spree shooting kind of thing. Was
Yeah,
in
and I think he
1966.
was MK Ultra, that guy.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because they actually set up a commission to study his brain, Charles Whitman, to see if he had a tumor or something, or something, whatever was causing him to do such an evil act. And
Oh
you
my
know who's responsible for actually, putting that commission together?
what?
Was John Connolly, who got shot during the, JFK
Oh my
assassination.
gosh, yes. So Jack
Yeah,
is saying it's UT. That's right, it was UT in the '60s, and he's
yeah,
also saying that he did have a brain tumor. But
yes, he did.
you can create a brain tumor, in my opinion and observation from pharma, from radiation, like, I think the stuff I knew somebody who was on just jillions of, like, antipsychotic
Oh
pills,
yeah, yeah.
and he got I mean, he wasn't somebody close to me, but he was got a brain tumor when he was young, like, in his young 30s, and I'm thinking, it's probably all that those brain pills you're taking, so, wouldn't be
Right.
surprised if an MK Ultra victim would also get a brain tumor. But that's just wild speculation. Okay,
That's wild.
so I don't know anything
Yeah.
about Virginia Tech. I knew it was big, but by the time I was aware of what was going of these things, there had been others. So the stories themselves like just start to mush together. I think I thought it was like that Asian chick who killed her roommate, which was probably a true one. I don't know though. I don't know. So
Right.
you for me, so then I've been looking at it, I've been reading about it today. And I like the past couple of days since I've been kind of getting my mind around listening to wanting to know what really happened. So all I'm getting is that it actually says in the wiki thing the first it, it the third paragraph of the wiki entry kind of tells you everything you need to know. The
Yeah.
attacks received international media coverage and provoked widespread criticism of U.S. gun culture. It sparked debate about gun violence, gun laws, gaps in the U.S. system for treating mental health issues, chose state of mind, the responsibility of college administrations, privacy laws, journalism ethics, and other issues. So it was funny because I went to some true crime podcast because I wanted to know the official narrative in detail first. So I was
Yeah.
listening to it before I read the Wikipedia thing. And he went through all this. He's like, were the parents responsible? I can't believe nobody realized how crazy he was. Look at all the problems with how it was handled, from the courts to the hospitals to this and that. Like, boy, it just shows you what's wrong with this country. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Like, these guys are just true crime guys. And they're not, maybe they're reading straight out of Wikipedia, but all of those agendas were hit on this guy's like just official narrative, which of course throws up massive red flags for me. So one, throws up red flags for me, two different things. All like the agendas being hit.
Yeah.
And that's why I knew Trump was fake the day, like the month he launched his first campaign in 2015, because the Kate Steinle thing happened. Do you remember the Kate Steinle thing?
No,
This
actually, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Doesn't.
it's a woman was shot on the pier in San Francisco by an illegal immigrant.
Oh yes, yes, I do
Right.
remember this.
That
Yeah.
happened 1 week after he said immigrants are,
Rapists
whatever,
and
criminals,
yeah,
but
yeah,
also nice people. And as soon as that happened, I mean, the second it happened, I was like, oh, he's an inside job. Like, shit like that does not happen.
yeah,
I mean, all that stuff his narrative was supported. And so when I see something that supports narratives, that is a big red flag to me. That's why I was like suspicious of the Lake and Riley murder in
yeah,
UGA. But that does check out because I know people there. And I mean, I'm satisfied that it's definitely true. But then the other thing that raises flags, like in this case, is the impossibility of the scenario. So in my mind, for you to actually, like, I try to think of what this guy did. Same
yeah,
thing with Vegas. Like, if you were actually think about trying to plan on doing one of those two things,
yeah,
and just to come up with a plan would be difficult. To get all the materials would be difficult. To execute the plan would be difficult. And what about all the wild cards of all the systems that are set up to prevent stuff like this? All the people who might get in your way. I mean, and you hear about that kind of stuff all the time, like stuff getting foiled by regular citizens, like that hero in Colorado who
right.
was killed. I forget his name, which is a shame.
Yeah,
But like Hurley or something like that.
yeah, I
I think that might be it. So when I heard what actually happened, I mean, like he killed some girl and some guy in one dorm, but then went and hit classrooms. Like, it seems to me that's the kind of thing where those aren't even two related things. We're certainly not the same people. And then he went home between killing the girl in the morning and changed all his clothes, took off the bloody clothes or the clothes that he was wearing, stopped to mail a letter, that he overnighting a letter to the
to,
wrong
to,
zip
NB,
code.
to NBC News was one of the packages too. Around when he was doing that. Yeah, and here's the
Yeah,
thing, Monica.
and he's
They,
crazy, which makes it harder to get things done.
right, right, right. Well, here's the thing. Officially, I believe it's still officially to this day. He's not connected to the first murders.
Oh, okay, because it didn't sound like they were connected at all.
They tried the authorities tried to make a connection, like him and Joe and the girl had some kind of a romantic
Yeah.
relationship, but that was more speculation than anything. Like there was
Yeah,
no
well, it's
real
in the
proof.
wiki that he did it.
Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm not saying he did it or that
Oh
they
no, no,
actually
I
have
know.
any
Yeah,
evidence. I'm just saying
right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
This is the like the official truth right there. People will
right.
argue to the death, but okay. So
Because I actually have some articles. I think it was a
yeah, the
part of it
first two
where
seem
they
totally
say,
unrelated.
yeah, where they actually say that there's no connection.
Did her boyfriend actually kill her?
Well,
Because
here's the
he
Well,
was
the
their first suspect.
officially it was Cho, right?
Right,
But
right,
those initial reports said that there was no connection, and
right.
after that, they kind of just let it stick, kind of like shades of another thing that happened in Boston, maybe,
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
they kind of
definitely.
just let things stick to
Yeah.
the
They're not
perpetrators.
yeah, not only the 2 cops, but the 3 drug thing from a previous
Right.
right? The 3 drug guys that were killed, one of whom was a friend of, Tamerlane's. Remember
Exactly,
that
and
one? Yeah. Yeah,
that's right.
totally. I agree. It
Yeah,
totally
they were
reminded me of the
like
Boston thing.
shades. It's kind of shades of that, where it's like, all right, well, that's kind of what we're gonna go
Yeah.
with right now,
Yeah, it's
But
easier for me and it's better for the story. It's more terrifying.
well, here's the thing. It also that Virginia Tech in general got in trouble because they didn't shut the whole thing down. They didn't shut all the dorms down and everything after that. Like at first, they sent a
Right.
text message to all the students saying that there was some kind of shooting in that dorm, but not telling them to go home or leave campus
Right.
or go
Because
back.
they thought it was an isolated incident.
Exactly right. And then you had the action, like the main attack, about 2 hours later, and that's when wow, what was I going to say?
So they didn't shut it down. I was asking you if you thought her boyfriend did it.
Oh yeah, no, well that's the thing. I don't know. That's the thing. They officially they pinned it on Cho. So bless you. Officially, they blamed it on Cho. So there was no reason to do any further investigation. You know what I mean? Because there's no other perpetrator for that. It's supposed to be him. So yeah, that whole first part is really murky. So
Yeah, so I don't think that counts at all. It's weird that it was a
no,
coincidence like that. Makes me wonder if
because
they
they
like
were
they
looking for another person of interest for that alone, and not the second one at first. Like they originally there was a person of interest, but it wasn't Joe at first.
right. But I
Which
thought the person of interest was the first victim's boyfriend.
oh well, let me see. Let me go back to the first. Was that in the Wikipedia
That
that he?
was in the like normie podcast.
Oh, the Normie podcast. Okay, all right. Yeah, because I had never heard the thing about the boyfriend, but they were trying to at first. I'm trying to pull up the article right now through the email, but anyway, moving on. Anyway,
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll find that. But
Okay, so let's assume that was totally unrelated. Do you
it is
yeah,
very
go ahead.
odd. I'll tell you that if you're gonna have a main false flag like 2 hours later, where you literally because before Vegas, remember Vegas was labeled the most deadly mass shooting in U.S. history, right?
Yeah,
Before that, it was Virginia Tech.
yeah,
You remember that because
yeah.
they were back in 2007. They were saying that that was the worst.
Until the pulse.
Yeah, well, you had the Pulse nightclub. Yep,
Yeah.
that's right. But I have an article here too. It's from the Washington Post, and it says Virginia Tech killers' motives pursued. Some actions during rampage still a mystery, and that was from April 26,
Yeah.
2007. So they never really got kind of like with Vegas with Paddock. They never got a real clear motive of why he went and did this.
So do you think he did it?
Well, here's the thing. There were witnesses that saw other shooters, kind of like with these other shooting events. There was even a 6 foot Asian guy, an Asian man that appeared to be 6 feet, that was arrested
With a black jacket.
with a black jacket,
Right. I thought that was sketchy too.
which is, yeah, very odd. And it did not appear to be Joe at all,
No, it
obviously.
wasn't. They
So,
released him. They arrested
yeah,
the guy and then they released him.
exactly. And there were, I believe, there were up to 3 shooters that were seen. That's usually that's how these things go. You got either 2, 3, or 4, and then they wind it down to just a lone nut, in the end. But
Right.
okay, so I got that. All right, we got the killer's motives were never really established. Kind of like with Vegas. Also, back in the day, Prison Planet and Alex Jones, they had some decent articles. I'm not the biggest Alex Jones fan. Kind of, I have my thing. Like I got my thing with Bill Cooper, like I was mentioning before.
Yeah. Bill
Kind of,
Cooper called him out day one.
yeah, I know. I kind of feel like
He's a
Alex.
taint agent. He's a
Yeah,
taint
exactly.
agent. I actually invented that expression for Alex Jones.
A taint
Because when
agent.
a
I
taint
love it.
agent, because isn't it great?
I love it.
Because he was on Pierce Morgan, there was this great episode where Larry Pratt of the Gun Owners Association of America was explaining to Piers Morgan how guns work in
Right.
self-defense, and he was very compelling about that. It was after that Connecticut incident.
That's right. Yeah, I
And
remember that.
then Alex Jones came on to clean up that mess by jumping up and down like Tom Cruise and saying like, I saw a picture, you got thrown out of the UK because you did something bad, and guns are good. Guns are good. It was just like, are you kidding? So he tainted the whole argument. It's like he's a taint agent.
Okay, all right. Now that makes more. Okay, I thought you meant he was just like an ass or whatever.
I know. Well, it's a funny little double entendre, of
Double
course,
entendre.
but
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
he's there to taint the
Right.
truth, the real argument by having something crazy inserted into it. It's cognitive infiltration, which was invented by Cass Sunstein and Adrian Vermeule from
That's
Harvard, who is now leading a Christian nationalist movement, which is
oh
hilarious.
wow.
The guy who invented cognitive infiltration
Wow.
is leading. Just proceed with caution.
Yes, absolutely. Well, actually, I'll tell you. I'll go. I know I'm jumping all over the place, so
Yeah.
forgive me here. At the time, I remember on the internet, and I actually have it pulled up in front of me right now. There's a photo that it either leaked or someone found it or whatever, and it was actually a part of Cho's original Wikipedia page. It's a picture of
Oh,
him dressed in Marine garb with another soldier. And that wasn't a part of the official story of him being in the Marines.
is that
And
one of
it,
the things you sent me?
oh yeah,
Right
yeah.
on.
Actually, if I could, I don't know if you could do this. If you could share the screen with this link, you can actually see the picture I'm talking about. I'll put it right in the private chat. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we can I can try.
Attempt it. Yeah,
I can do it. I can do it. I can
I believe in you,
okay.
Monica.
So we can do the
You,
fastest way for me to do this is just to share the screen.
yeah, that's what. Yeah, yeah. Just so everyone knows what I'm talking about, because this photo was on. Yes, here we go. Yeah, this photo was on all the conspiracy blogs, all the conspiracy chat rooms, and everything, are right around the time that this.
Wow.
And it was actually, they said it was from. It was actually pulled from his official Wikipedia page, which I guess doesn't. That one obviously doesn't exist anymore. And then it
What?
disappeared. It
The
disappeared.
Iraq Reconstruction Management Office. That was sketchy.
Well, that's his connection there. His sister worked there for the State Department. Usually, when you find out with these suspects or these patsies or whatever, they always have these military connections somehow. Case in point,
Wow.
Case in point, Eric Harris of Columbine. His father, Wayne Harris, was in.
Yeah, what was that again?
He was in. He was in the Air Force, but with Black Ops.
So so let's assume I guess what is a possible scenario that she was connected, he had a mental health history, and somehow he was identified as a patsy, or I guess they
If
dragged if he was
if
wearing
he
that outfit.
if that's him and that's real, if that's really him in as a Marine, that's not a part of the official story.
Do you
He's
think
supposed to
that's
be a
really him?
student.
Have you looked at his
If you
face?
really look at him,
Yeah,
I, me and a whole bunch of other people
yeah, I think it's him, yeah.
I mean, it's hard. He's got the face mask and everything,
Oh,
but
and it
he's
was in Wikipedia.
that was yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and then they got
Yeah.
rid of that fast off of that, but people got the screenshot, and this circulated to websites like that back then. So it wasn't totally disappeared, kind of like that Connecticut shooting. A lot of that stuff,
I
people
know.
think a lot of that disappeared, but other people that were
Can
able to
find
find
it.
a lot of it. So that's the thing. So I mean, that was always a weird, the epitome of weird. And then you find out that his sister worked for the State Department and was
Yeah.
kind of directly involved with
Well,
stuff going on with Iraq and everything.
speaking of which, the Pulse shooting, the dad, there's a
Yeah,
picture of the dad in the Oval Office.
right.
The dad of the shooter.
Exactly. So what is that? Yeah. So what do we make of that kind of thing? You know what I
What
mean?
what's the thing? So I used to just say, like, anybody who's ever been arrested by the FBI is like, that's where they identify the patsies.
Right.
What but now people have glommed onto that, but like twisted it up a little bit. What's the story about? What comes to mind when you say, "Oh, that guy was like arrested"? Oh, trauma maybe. I can't remember because the Columbine guys were arrested, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now I. Okay. Yeah. No. They were arrested for breaking into a van and they were put into a program like an anger management style program, and they had to check in a certain amount of time and yeah, that gets a little sketchy too with that. I think they had an official name for that program. It wasn't anger management, but it was kind of like one of these programs where they they had to. Let's just say it would have been the perfect time for indoctrination or for any kind
Yes,
of
I
MK
understand.
Ultra type stuff.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you want
definitely,
to
yeah.
go or brainwashing or whatever,
Yeah.
because in that case, I came across an article with Sue Klebold, who was Dylan Klebold's mother. She had done an interview for the Independent, I think, in England. I think it was from, and she had made mention that her and her husband had questioned Wayne Harris and the idea that maybe he had some military brainwashing manuals like in his residence. But that could also be
Wow.
chalked up. That could also be chalked up that she doesn't want to accept that her son could be a killer. I guess you know what I mean. It's one of those things. But she had made that mention of brainwashing manuals on military ones in the Harris residence. But anyway, yeah, no. With Cho, he would take pictures of various people in his classes and like upset them and everything, and be mean, yeah, apparently. And yeah, it was, and he'd be kind of distant. It was kind of it's kind of an odd occurrence because usually with these shooters, they are in their mind, it's kind of a grandiose thing, but this guy didn't really seem to be into himself, if that you know what I mean, in terms of just thinking what's the word that I'm looking for, where narcissistic, I guess, or where you think you're God's gift to the earth. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it right,
Yeah,
but
which is like a flip side. And I heard them saying the normie thing, like some people said he was, or some teachers would say he was super arrogant, and others would
yes,
say that he was like super insecure and
insecure,
would talk.
withdrawn. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
but
got
like
you
Timothy McVeigh seemed a little
yeah.
off also.
Well, he's another one. Yeah, that's another.
You
You
know,
go
I
down.
think they take that
Well,
like
there's
a
shades.
shell
There's
psyche. Yeah.
if that picture is accurate, and that really is
Yeah.
Joe in the Marines,
Right.
that mirrors Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah.
Because there's pictures of Timothy McVeigh inside a tank in full like military garb, and
Hmm.
it's actually dated from like a year after he was supposed to
Yeah.
be discharged.
Right.
But anyway,
And then there's that letter he wrote to his sister, which was published in the New York Times. Did you ever see that?
that he was
Pulled
he was recruited for special ops, right? Yeah,
in domestically.
domestically, yeah, yeah. I think
So
she tried to bring that out during his trial too. I believe. I don't think they let her. But anyway, another thing that kind of like I was saying before, like a lot of these, they kind of mirror these incidents, mirror each other in certain ways, and even with like as recent as Vivaldi, um, the Virginia, the cops were told by the feds to stand down, and that goes back to Columbine too, where
Navy Yard did the same thing.
Navy Yard stand down.
Yep.
I believe Fort Hood had some kind of a
Yeah.
stand down for a
And
little
the
bit.
cops defended themselves with the Navy Yard shooting. It was the Capitol Police, and they said we were on our way and we got called back.
Yes, yeah. And then you look at the Capitol cops after January 6th.
I
It's
know.
like,
Well, the Capitol, they had their pride, but they've been very buttoned up from the beginning, and they
oh
are
yeah, yeah,
supposedly super scary, like
right,
above the law kind of stuff. But I mean, that's just rumor, I guess.
right.
So okay, so what
We went
happened?
all over the place.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
there were a couple of shootings in the morning in a dorm, which probably had nothing to do with him. That was my guess. It seemed weird. In order for that to be him, he had to go back to his room, clean up, get changed. After that, he went and dropped off the manifesto at the FedEx office or whatever. Whereas it makes much more sense to say, okay, he got up, he got dressed, he went to the post office, and then he went and did his crazy ass thing.
Right.
It's weird that there were two things at the same time. I almost wonder if you if maybe they just wait for some violence to happen, or
It
no,
could be
I don't
that.
know.
It
Could
could
be
be that.
haystacking. Could be they were trying to kill somebody, but
Right. And it could also be a distraction for the other possible players that were going to be
oh,
involved in the real
right.
one 2 hours later.
Right. It gets people on the other side of campus or whatever. Okay. So
Right.
later, so something like this where dozens of people are killed and where they have a very high kill rate. So,
Yeah, he was very accurate. It's almost like with Adam Lanza's kill rate,
yeah,
that kind of thing, where witnesses said that he was able to replace the clips like almost like
like a pro.
instantaneously, like a pro. Yeah, exactly, like a total professional. And like even with the Port Arthur thing, massacre in Australia from 1996, that was that kill rate was impossible too for that Patsy Martin Bryant,
Yeah.
because he had a lot of mental, how do you put it these days, he had a lot of mental handicaps, let's put
Yes.
that. Yeah, so
So Kelvin wants to point out that,
sure.
quote, they were a loner or, quote, kept themselves to themselves usually means the person did not exist. So that's the cover why they weren't known in the community. That's actually a good point.
That does happen, and then but you got to be careful, because then you can go two ways with that. You can go the hoax route, which is, I don't know, it's kind of it's a very dangerous route to go
Yeah.
down, because well, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. I hope they're all hoaxes, but they're not all hoaxes. Plus, this was college. They could have, if he was really somebody they were implanting
Yeah,
to act weird, they could have implanted him 2 years hence or whatever. You know what I mean?
but if it's not a hoax scenario or a drill kind of scenario,
Right.
they could be loners just because that's how their programming is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Would you think, like, is there anything that makes you think that this was a hoax? I think
I
hoaxes didn't start until a little bit later.
hoaxes were more a possible hoaxes. I'm not even, yeah, like
Yeah.
that that thing in 2012, I think was
Yeah.
actually it wasn't. I think that was more of a drill mixed with people actually did. Some people did get hurt.
Right. I
Not,
mean, the idea of a hoax is great cover.
well, if you really think about it, that would be the next logical step for the powers that be, or whoever these evil people that do these things, because then you don't have relatives and
Yeah. I
lawsuits
mean,
and
they should actually do it as hoaxes. That's fine. I mean, and as we get like increasingly digitized, that's one of the things that said maybe in the cognitive infiltration book, maybe in a different thing I read where it said it'll just we have to send actual people to all these, you
yeah,
know, uh meetings everywhere. If we could just do it all online, one guy could be like 10 guys.
right. Well, and you also think the people participating, if you tell them it's a drill that they're participating in, and then
Yeah.
they and
Yeah.
then they realize after that, oh wait,
Yeah.
something actually did happen.
Yeah.
They're 9 times out of 10, they're not going to open their mouths because now they're a part of an actual crime, and most likely they signed an NDA somewhere. If
Imad
it was,
Salem did
yeah,
not. Imad Salem was the guy in the 1995, I think it was, or 93
the
World
World
Trade
Trade
Center
Center,
bombing.
yeah,
Yes, and
he
he was
he
like,
he was smart.
why
He
did you
was
swap
smart.
out the
He taped
explosives
his
for
handler.
real stuff?"
Hey, he
Yeah, that
taped,
was great.
yeah, because he
That
was
was
like,
on
oh wait,
CBS News.
yeah, it was Dan Rather reported that on the 6 o'clock news, and he was talking about
There was a
during that
chick.
trial.
Yeah, I don't remember the Dan Rather part, which it probably was, but I heard a chick reporting on it. But yeah, that's um yeah, so they would if you say it is and it ends up not being, that's a big problem. So you might say it is, it isn't, but still say it is so that you can get away with it. So is there any reason to believe that this did not actually happen?
No,
I
I
know.
think I
Yeah.
think this was I hate to say classic because it makes it sound like nice or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But
I know.
this was your usual pre 2012 false flag kind of situation where people did die. I believe. I mean, I could
Yeah.
be wrong, but nothing about the reporting or anything or the footage or anything made me think that otherwise. It was
Yeah.
like with Columbine. I actually know a couple of people that got hurt during that. So yeah, that one, because there will be people that say that Columbine was a hoax
Well,
all these
the
years later.
interview you did with that woman survivor was
Yeah, she was.
very believable. It'd be
Yeah,
hard to fake that. And especially how she coped with it over time and the lasting, like, the
yeah,
manifestation of her trauma.
yeah.
You really can't make that up, like, she and yeah, that was very good, very good.
She saw bodies being moved around too.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, she's a trooper. Jen Small. She's one of the bravest people I've ever met.
yeah,
Um,
that's very brave.
but yeah,
So
with
you think
Virginia
this
Tech.
sister okay,
Oh yeah, sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
So then he went and did so after he mailed the letter, he went and there were 2 different locations for the additional shootings, right? Or was there
Yeah,
more?
was the Norris Hall, I believe it was, or was that the first? That was the
The first one was in West Ambler
yeah,
Johnston Hall.
dormitory. Yeah,
The main shooting was in Norris Hall, a classroom building where
yeah,
Cho chained the main entrance doors shut and fired into 4 classrooms and in a stairwell, killing 30 people.
right. That's
And that's
that's
when he shot himself in the head. So I guess it was one building, Norris Hall, but it was numerous classrooms, 4 classrooms.
yeah, 4 classrooms. And during that time, there were witnesses that described him almost like almost like in a Sirhan kind of trance, if that makes sense.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pulling that up right here. Yeah, he had an expressionless look like a mind controlled assassin, and this was in the Daily Mail, April 17th, 2007, by
Love the
David
mail.
Williams. And basically, he goes on to say that it was like a firing squad where terrified students lined up against the wall of their classroom and shot execution style. The doors were chained shut by the killer to keep his.
I cannot hear you. The last thing I heard you say, Chris, was that the people were lined up and shot execution style, which my gut tells me that it's more likely that 2 professionals at minimum would be needed to get that done. What do you think? I lost you, Chris, so we're gonna have to do something about this. Wanna drop off and click back in? You could do that. I could kick you off. Well, you dropped off. So, very interesting stuff. Let's look at some. Does anybody have any questions for Chris? Was the kid on SSRIs? He might have been. He had real mental health issues, supposedly. I mean, let's just say that's true. And he was, I think, meant to report for further evaluation, which he did not. Uh, and they don't report it. You're saying, Jason says, because of HIPAA, so it's privacy. But I think the SSRI thing, I'm not convinced that that isn't a red herring, as they say. Yeah, Kelvin says that hoaxes explain why none of the family members are screaming from the rooftops or going to court. Going to court in these ops never occurs. That's true. That's true. I always want that. I hate it when people plead guilty. I don't like plea bargains at all. 9/11 probably taught them not to not to um do it for real, because they did have trouble with the 9/11 survivors, the widows and stuff. And I remember there was a very long period of time, I would say it's continuing to this day, where it's probably going on 20 years right now, where no US commercial jet had or was involved in a fatal accident. There were a couple of exceptions to that, but I consider them all to be psyops or false flags. Or in the case of the first one that breaks that streak, it was a commuter jet going, I think, to Buffalo, and in it was a 9/11 widow who was outspoken for justice. She had some really interesting things to say, and I think that plane was brought down in a haystacking operation against her, and that, I think they really maybe learned their lesson, because there were 3,000 people, and you can probably fool 80% of them, but not 100%. So if I'm a little bit surprised they didn't leak that it was an assassination themselves, just to keep people quiet, because then you do see like Vince Foster and Chris Kyle. These people, their wives are like, "Oh no, nothing, nope, nothing weird there." You know? So anyway, where do you think Chris is? Let's see. Let's see where Chris is. I'm going to look at my email. I don't mind chatting with y'all. Lord knows I can talk. I try, now that I'm doing a solo show though, I feel like oh, here he is. I don't have to struggle to get my words in. I can let people say what they have to say. This is a collaborative episode. Okay, Chris,
I'm
you
s-
are back.
I'm s- I'm sorry, guy, everybody. I'm my my lack of professionalism is really.
It's a tech thing. You are still cutting out a little bit. We're gonna give you time to buffer or whatever. But his internet went out at home, so like the trooper that he is, he's in a McDonald's parking lot, bringing the show. Even though I canceled on him once, but he is. The show must go on. But let's get back to it. Chris, talk to me. No, Chris, no. Maybe I should cut off mine. This is what I'll try to do. I'll stop the camera. Does Chris, say something. See if that helped. Oh, Chris. All right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go through the email that Chris sent me, and I'm going to read the all the articles, the resources he sent to me, because I wouldn't be surprised if the headlines themselves, carefully curated as they have been, tell the story. So let's look. He sends me one. It says the Virginia Tech conspiracy. Um, the VTech massacre, real life Manchurian candidate, cause and effect, the Virginia Tech tragedy. Feds order Virginia police to stand down. Cho was a mind controlled assassin. The gunman's body was disfigured. Mind controlled mass shootings connected to elites' blood sacrifices to Satan. Now we're really getting down there. This proves that government can't protect you. Okay, let's give Chris one more chance. Chris, talk to me, brother.
Sorry, everybody. I'm on McDonald's Wi-Fi right now, and it keeps booting me off. But yeah, no, I'll go through this one real quick if you don't mind. I have it's a Virginia Tech gunman's body was disfigured and other oddities. And it says the average nut is not this well armed nor able to kill with such precision and so quickly. And that was a comment by someone from Blue Ridge.
I agree.
Yeah. And also from Blue Ridge, who lives in West Virginia. I have been watching Roanoke local TV with excellent coverage. Brian Williams of NBC interviewed two students, one who was shot. The following facts about the shooter emerged as they met face to face. I did not recognize from campus Cho. He reloaded the clip's semi-auto pistols very fast. He looked trained in use of weapons like a pro, wearing a red cap, vest, impression of a trained beret. Um, Authorities said he had no ID on him, which there were, many reports of that at first. They couldn't identify him. Gunman was wearing all black, pro wear. Camera phone recorded a blast after the shots. And that's reminiscent of Columbine as well, where there was explosives involved as well. The school police stood down for 2 hours without notifying students or faculty, and that was after the first incident in the dorm that we're not sure if it was connected or not because they never came out and said that until later on, until the official story, I guess, got cemented.
But it could have been like a lethal weapon thing where they
Yeah,
send all the cops to one place. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. During the press conference, they said they often run drills. The school president and campus police chief were absolutely emotionless during both conferences, very matter of fact. Police not providing ID, not providing weapon details. Why? The ATF source tells NBC News that the gunman was not a Virginia Tech student, but someone who had access to the dorm. Okay, so we got that, and they originally they had mentioned that the shooter was his body was all mangled and everything, and I'm trying to get to where that was here, but so the gunman may have made 3 bomb threats to test security response. Authorities were investigating whether the gunman who killed 32 people on the Virginia Tech campus in the deadliest shooting rampage in U.S. history was a Chinese man who arrived in the United States last year on a student visa. The 24-year-old man arrived in San Francisco on United Airlines August 7th on a visa issued in Shanghai, the source said. Now, that is weird because if you remember in the wiki, he grew up here.
South Korea. I thought he was in South Korea and then moved
He was
here.
born, he was born and then he moved here and he lived here, and his sister worked for the State Department. But with
And it
here,
definitely
there's
wasn't Shanghai he was going to.
Shanghai, exactly.
Shanghai would be the last place.
Exactly. And CNN said that the Virginia Tech killer chained doors shut at his second shooting site before going into a German class and opening fire. Um, yeah, on the day, I remember there were all kinds of conflicting, like with all these events. And you know what? I'll give people credit that kind of call out that. I mean, yeah, there can be confusion or whatever, but usually the first reports are going to be the closest to what
Yeah, I
actually
agree with
happened.
that. Yeah.
But the talking heads, the talking points are usually, well, there's so much confusion in the beginning, and some of that
No,
could be
I
true.
don't believe that.
I don't either, but I'm just saying you never know. I mean, every now and then maybe that could be the case, but usually with these high profile ones that there's some agendas like you had pointed out earlier about all the different like pharmaceuticals, gun control and everything. Um, yeah, see, the police cited a person of interest in the dorm killing. Um, and then they said that the dead gunman is yet to be ID'd. So yeah, there was a lot of shenanigans here.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say right now is, if people want to go and look, there's a blog that was really hard to find. I found it maybe about 10 years ago, and it's called the Virginia Tech Conspiracy.blogspot.com. If you plug that into the Wayback Machine, you should have some luck.
Yeah.
Um, this actually got my attention. It reminded me of the weird stuff from the day because
Yep.
in 2007 I had already been, kind of hip to this, like Columbine and 9/11, and
Yeah.
like look at the first reports, that kind of thing. But um, there was a thing on this blog that pointed to the other suspects, and it's right around here. Okay. While I'm finding that, were you able to talk to a lot of people when I was gone?
Yeah, yeah, so I started looking through these articles that you sent me and reading the headlines, and I'm looking through one of them now from the Virginia Tech Conspiracy Blogspot. So one thing that we were talking about is his mental illness, but in this one of these articles, it says that a teacher said she did not like the idea. She said that the idea he was suffering from a mental disorder was crap. She preferred to describe his behavior as simply mean, intimidating. There was something mean about this boy. It was meanness. I've taught troubled youngsters and crazy people. It was the meanness that bothered me. It was just a mean streak. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, he refused to attend psychiatric sessions recommended to him and did not use psychiatric drugs. People were asking if he was on SSRIs. When
Right.
informed of the massacre, she said, I knew when it happened that that's probably who it was. I would have been shocked if it wasn't. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, she wasn't fond of him, and she said that she wasn't going to, because I guess he was responsible for two or three females leaving her class, and she did not want him coming back, and that he was bad news.
Yeah. Right.
Which makes
Um,
sense.
she said she would sooner quit, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it says they did blood tests on him to see if he was on drugs. And as a result of this, Virginia authorities have submitted the names of more than 80,000 people with legally certified mental health problems to the FBI to ensure they don't buy guns. But he didn't have a legally certified mental health problem.
That's right. That's
So
right.
this is something I notice about all these agenda. It's kind of like invading Iraq after 9/11. How people didn't notice that Iraq did not do 9/11, even the official story.
Right.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
Even the official story is that Iraq did not do 9/11. So why is that the answer to your problem?
Right. Right.
I
Yeah,
just
there
still
was
don't
no
understand it.
weapons of mass destruction, and there was no ties to Al Qaeda. That's right. And yet it became Operation Iraqi Freedom, and then they didn't bring that
Well,
up
at
anymore.
first it was Operation Iraqi Liberation,
Liberation, right?
right?
Yeah.
Which the acronym is OIL,
Well, I didn't
isn't
even
that?
think of that. Wow.
Hilarious.
Yeah, well, you got that, and also, I guess, torture chambers is liberation, but that's a whole other thing. But you want to know something I just found, and I think everyone might get a kick out of this. There was a screenshot of the other suspect being arrested, and I have it.
Oh,
I don't know.
really?
Yeah, it's from that blog, from the Virginia Tech blog, blogspot.com. It's the second link I put in the private chat. If you're able to share that, it's right at the top of the screen, and they have them on the ground and everything.
Oh, I love that stuff. I did a ton of that for oh my gosh, that looks just like the Boston Marathon.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm just so proud of myself that I can push these buttons in the right order.
Yeah. I can barely do that. You got a
I
screenshot right there, Fox News.
should I
Eh?
see? I can't tell if it no. I'm trying to get that picture bigger. I don't know what you
Oh
recommend.
yeah,
Not gonna
yeah,
be able to
yeah.
do that.
Not sure how to.
So what I'm looking at is 20 well, this says, yeah, gunman was killed. So that's another suspect. And boy, does he look old.
He looks old, and I'm not sure if he could be 6 feet or not because there was reports that there was a 6 foot Asian shooter. So I don't know. you know, it says here Park Chang Min, a 27-year-old engineer, said in an interview with South Korean journalists that the perpetrator hid his face behind a mask and had his brown colored cap lowered to his eyes. He wore glasses and something like a black ammo jacket. This information conflicts with other eyewitness reports that claim Cho was dressed almost like a Boy Scout. Furthermore, a report released by Fox News states that a government official with knowledge of the shooting said the gunman had been arrested. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah, and then also officials also pursued Carl
Carl
Thornhill as a
Thornhill,
suspect
that's the boyfriend of the girl who was killed first.
in the dorm. That's right. Yeah, they
Yeah.
detained him for questioning later on. And it says right here, another reason for believing that there was a second gunman is the accuracy of the killings. A firearms instructor recently said that most people, unless heavily trained and highly skilled, lack competence in the use of firearms. An example of this is in an LA police shooting. A police officer fired 112 rounds from close range, but nicked the suspect only once. The suspect was not engaging the officer. The officer was presumably well trained in the use of firearms and exact minimal damage upon potentially dangerous suspect. So
That always drives me crazy. I was watching Blacklist last night. Don't tell
yeah,
me anything about it. I'm only like halfway through it. And I mean, there's like 10 guys coming at them.
yeah,
And it's just whatever, like the James Spader and his bodyguard. And these like 10 guys are coming at them, shooting with all like big guns and little guns, and they're shooting, 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 shooting. And these guys, Spader and the other guy, are on the run with like something in their hand and like just a couple of handguns. And they're just turning around, kind of shooting over their shoulder. And like every one of these guys they're not getting hit at all. And all the other guys are getting shot. And it's like, yeah, that's not how it works, but I don't care because it's a TV show. But then they've got us so trained to be like, yes, that is how it works. Didn't you see the footage of the Virginia Tech thing? It's like, no,
exactly.
that's not how it works. That
That's
isn't how it could only because look at war stats. You've got guys, you have people again trained in a war situation, and I think the casualty rate is usually 3 to 1, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
3
so. Yeah.
injuries to 1 death.
I've heard that before. Yeah.
I mean, it has to be that way. Think about it. I mean, even when I've been to the shooting range and you shoot a target, I mean, I suck, but a lot of people suck. That guy probably sucked.
Most people suck.
Yeah, that guy
Yeah,
probably sucked. Where is he practicing? I want documented evidence of that guy at the range.
exactly. Right. Usually with a lot of these spree shooters, they kind of they exhibit um, movements and training that they couldn't have possibly had at certain, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
at least according to people that would know them intimately.
Yeah.
But then again, you're not, you're not with someone 24/7. But
No, but here's an example. I used to watch a lot of Forensics Files, which I assume is total. Well, I mean, it's clearly propaganda, right? It's like pro, propaganda, but it's usually pretty gripping. And they one time they caught the killer because there was a situation where like he took his clothes off before he killed the person, and then I guess he just ran away or took a shower or whatever. But
right,
after he took his clothes off, he rolled them up,
right.
and
Oh,
they were like, "Oh, that's a soldier." And
oh,
her ex-husband was in the service, and they just arrested him immediately. So I'm just saying those kind of habits, yes, you are taught them, but they indicate the culture that you or the things that you have learned, and you just don't do that if you
or
weren't bred that way.
or if you want to go more down the esoteric route, um, or the route where you really want to go full blown MK Ultra. If there's any truth to the whole microchipping thing, because some people think that Timothy McVeigh had a microchip. Even
Oh, he
apparently
thought so.
he even told Bill Cooper that he had it in
Yeah,
his
he
left
totally
buttock.
thought so. And
Yeah,
they said, "You're crazy, there's no such thing." But now we know there totally is such thing.
right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, and but whenever you bring that up to like the layperson, or just if that's the right term, a normie,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
to speak, then their eyes kind of glaze over, and but maybe there could be microchips that have all this training put on it or something. You know what I mean? Where even if they weren't taught it physically, like they just
Yeah, yeah.
have the training
Oh,
somehow.
yes. Well, now they can do that for sure, and I think
Right.
you have to assume that
They
70
probably could have done it
yeah.
for how the rule of thumb with DARPA and
Yes,
that type
how
of
how
thing
many
is that
years?
it's usually like 20, 30 years ahead of
Yeah, it's gotta be at least
yeah,
20, 'cause I had a friend who was, interviewed for a job like that, NSA or CI or whatever, many, many
really,
years ago, and she said they wanted her to do it for whatever reason, she knew a language or something, and they wanted her to do it, and they said, "Look, you would not believe how cool this shit is, like, it's 10 years ahead of what you are seeing." And I'm like, "Well, that means it's 20 years."
yes,
And I had another friend who was told more recently, this is like a friend of a friend of a friend, but I think it's real, true, that like what you think this is doing, like the shit you think it's hearing and doing is a fraction of what it is actually doing.
right, right,
Like that you don't even there's no not only don't bother throwing your phone away, but like somebody
right.
else's phone somewhere it's all triangulated, whatever. It's total 24/7 total information awareness. Look it up on Wiki. That's what they're doing. That's what they did. But anyway, so
Oh
yeah,
yeah, are you
yeah,
talking about the program with the all-seeing eye as the
yeah,
logo?
yeah. They actually they took the
Yeah,
logo down, I think, even from the Wiki page. But yeah, I used to
they
talk about
did.
that on the radio. I
It's on
remember my
WikiSpeak still.
this it was before conspiracy theorists were demonized.
Right.
So, my program director would listen to my show, and I believe he used to work with who was the one on Coast to Coast? It wasn't Nori, it was the other one,
Art
Art Bell.
Bell? Art
Art Bell.
Bell.
So he's like, you're like the new Art Bell." But this was 10 years ago, and he was like, "I can't believe this." And I was reading the Total Information Awareness Project just on the air, and later it's like, "How did you find that?" I'm like, "It's in Wikipedia." I'm like, "It's just there." I don't know how I found it, but, it's all hidden in plain sight, and at the time, they used to love it because I was explaining things that could not really otherwise be explained or shocking people. But now you can't do that because it's demonized. And it's also, we've been saturated with it. But there is this wiki article, look it up. It's called Total Information Awareness. It has an eyeball that has like a laser beam of light engulfing the earth. And it was a government project that was shut down. Like somebody made some noise and Congress to shut
Yeah,
it
but
down.
it wasn't though.
Of course not. But their goal was 24/7 awareness of everyone on Earth. And they did that by using cameras, mics, facial recognition, gait recognition was big. Gait recognition. So masks don't matter anymore. And so that's why when they did this thing called Shot Spotter, have you heard of Shot Spotter?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So it's installed everywhere. Some places want to take it down because it serves no value. The idea is you mic up all the street lights so that in the unlikely effing scenario that it hears a shot that nobody else hears and it alerts an authority that actually responds to it and does some good. I mean, it's a 1 in a million chance. I mean, give everybody $1 and you'll do more good than that. But
Well,
it's there for total information awareness. Once you know about it, you can see everything.
Well, you know why that was implemented in the first place, right?
Shot Spotter or total information awareness?
Total information awareness.
I thought it was in the wake of 9/11. I thought it was a
Yeah,
George.
well, yeah, you're right. No, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a George Bush thing.
It was a George,
Which, of course,
and Rumsfeld too. Yeah.
Yeah, many scenarios accomplished. It's so nuts.
Yeah, and they even because of 9/11, you had the continuity of government being greenlit, and also the Department of Propaganda that Rumsfeld was forced to shut down in January of 2002. So a lot of weird shit that happened because of that day. But anyway, yeah. So yeah.
And the more we know, the more we know that we don't know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The more you know, or the more. What is it? What's the one CBS?
The more you know.
NBC. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember. So okay. So what? So what came out of it? What do you think? What do you think the upshot is? Why did they do it with the time? So you think that it was a distraction from other things that they accomplished? They put the mental health thing, see, because it's so long ago. I don't remember what was already in the public consciousness and what wasn't. Obviously, gun stuff is always a big thing, but I think this might have been the thing that put mental health on the map. And I think doing it in a university where kids get worried, they you send your kids away for the first time, they get nervous, they get freaky, parents are worried about it. Strategy of tension, big part of this.
Oh yeah, the strategy of tension from Operation Gladio. Yeah. Well, that's a part of it. I think I honestly think that Virginia Tech, they have to do these things every once in a while. I don't know. People's heads might, eyes might roll or whatever, but the late Dave McGowan, who I'm a big fan of his research, he kind of equated Columbine and then to a bigger effect, 9/11, as these mass traumatizing events that kind of keep the public in line. And
I think that JFK,
starting with the JFK assassination being in broad daylight.
Yeah.
And you remember how the whole nation was in constant mourning and like the end of innocence and things like that.
That's basically proof positive that he's right, is the JFK shooting, because think of the cultural change that they affected with that. Just think about it. And prior to that, you had to have war.
Yes.
And then around that time, they did the report from Iron Mountain, which was about substitutes for war. And first they list out the purposes of war. And I don't know if they listed out mass trauma, because
Yeah.
some of the stuff they say expressly in the report from Iron Mountain, we're not going to actually discuss this stuff because people being fully aware of it will neutralize our ability to use these tools. So
Yes.
they
Yeah.
left some of the stuff out. Like they figured out a way to control the world above war. I think they were talking about the environmentalism. And they're like, we're not going to tell you where we landed, the answer we came up with.
Right.
Terrorism, too. I don't know if they expressly mentioned terrorism, but there's so many things came out of that. But that mass trauma
Yeah.
coming out of JFK, I mean, you're just like, it's like open heart surgery. They like open your ribs up and they can just chunk anything in there that they want, when you're in
Exactly.
that state of shock. Like, because that we're more jaded now. They probably make us, I mean, the fact that some of us think it's fake serves some purposes for them, but I guess they figured by now we're just not as vulnerable to that kind of trauma because our innocence was lost. So you might as well take
Well,
advantage of other.
that's why you have events. You have to keep kind of bombarding the public with these type of events, because if you think about it, I think Virginia Tech. I feel like they have a playbook, Monica. I feel like they switch out what they're going to do one after another. Oh, we're gonna have a spree shooting here. Oh, we're gonna have a terrorist attack over here. Then it becomes a virus over here, and then we're gonna have an insurrection. Like I feel like the playbook is constant. We're gonna have race riots. I think it's all on the books, and
Did you
that, yeah,
do you remember in the report from Iron Mountain they said now that we have computers, we
yeah,
can really trace out
yeah,
the farthest ripple effects of the tiniest thing, and the example they gave was we can determine the impact of the price of real estate in lower Manhattan from a small change in the draft law. And can
yeah.
you imagine two things? One, how much financial value there is in that. I mean, they used a financial example. If you knew
Oh
the impact on the price of real estate somewhere of something that was happening, you would be able to capitalize on that. And they were saying they have supercomputers, which of course now they really have supercomputers.
yeah, oh
And
yeah,
then the other thing is the complexity of the systems
yeah,
that they of how they manipulate. So we have a lot of simultaneous systems, happening all at once, like our
yeah,
whole complex society.
yeah,
And I think they have that basically four-dimensionally loaded in there. I'm pretty positive. I almost feel like somebody told me this recently. They have it loaded in there, and then they can drop an event like that, and they can see, the spherical ripple effect of that, and then
oh yeah,
other ones too. And I think that they absolutely have it all planned out. And then one big thing they always did with psyops is they you like there's a timeline of how you do a psyop, and then you assess it. You roll it out slowly, or you do one initial event just like practice or whatever. You assess it, and then you decide whether
well,
you're going to roll out
yeah,
the next
you're
phase.
you're at that perfect example of what you're saying right there. Oklahoma City was a run up to 9/11 test run, if you will.
And then the first WTC must have been the World Trade
Oh yeah,
Center in
right before it.
93, because
Yeah,
they did put a bomb in the basement and it did kill people. It went off, but it didn't bring
yeah,
him down.
killed 6 people and
Sick.
injured like 2,000 or something like that. Yeah, but
So, Chris, can I ask you if you don't have to tell me publicly, but if you're a pot smoker, because I find your memory to be excellent.
well,
Don't answer that question.
well, if you
I'm
think about
just
it,
saying you have
no,
a
but
good.
if you think about it, aren't pot smoker nothing against pot smokers, but aren't they known for not having a memory?
Yeah, that's why I think you're not a pot smoker.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll
You don't
go with
have
that.
to answer the question at all, but I'm always amazed when people have a good memory. I just think, can you do that through the brain fog of anything? I can't really think hard with a hangover, but I always, and I'm
Well,
often wrong. I'm often wrong. I mean, I've actually talked to people who are smoking pot
Yeah.
while we're talking, and I'm amazed that they're like on the show, and I'm amazed that they can think. I'm like, geez, is that
If
nicotine you're vaping? Like, no, ma'am. Like, okay, well,
it's
I wonder
if
how
it's something,
smart you'd be otherwise, or maybe you're Dr. Johnny Fever and you just get smarter.
I would, yeah, that's the thing. If I was that smart, I wouldn't be in a car right now. I'll tell you, right? You know what I
I
mean?
think you're a hero. I'm gonna let you go. I promise we would do only 1 hour to
Yeah,
accommodate what may be an uncomfortable car situation, but it's just fun talking to you, Chris. And I like it because I've never mentioned a rabbit hole that you don't know where I'm coming from. You throw out a detail here and there, the 6 people who died that time. And you know what? It's not funny or fun that we talk. Those people really did die. And a
yeah.
lot of these people do die. And I just, think of the COVID, like what they did with that, like all the people that everyone who's listening right now knows someone who was buried because of that psyop. Whatever stage of that psyop, I mean, real massive mass
They
casualty.
killed my grandfather on the
Yeah.
ventilator. Yeah.
Yes, it's a
So
ventilator, it's the vaxes, it's remdesivir. Like there were so many things. Why do I do this? Why do I
it's
throw those little fucking bombs in my own show? I just don't understand
they're
because that's the
important.
stuff that gets you taken down.
Oh, you mean bombs? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I
like
guess.
that's just so stupid. But anyway, whatever. I don't care. And then people are just like, you pull punches. I'm like, I should pull a few more punches. Actually, no one ever says that. But sometimes I feel bad that I don't just like come out and whatever, say go super hard on that stuff. But there's no point in doing it if you lose your platform. So anyway.
Can I mention one last thing?
Yeah, whatever you want. I have time.
I think to add on to the what the purpose may have been for Virginia Tech in general. I think the public's concentration had, already in an age with the internet and sneakers that have like lights in them and cell phones and all that. I think that the public's memory was already going at that point, and Columbine had been almost 10 years before that, 2007. So they
Yes.
kind of had to have a to kind of all those agendas you were talking about go back to Columbine. So I think, and here's the other thing, that was really the first high profile spree shooter to credit the 2 killers at Columbine, which became a thing where
Oh,
they would, after every spree shooting, they would always tie the perpetrator as a fan of Eric and Dylan from Columbine, which was like the 9/11 of the spree shooting phenomenon or whatever. You know what I
right.
mean? So that was just a couple little nuggets
Yeah.
there.
No, they do that. Once they put that, they plant in your mind copycat
Because
stuff.
they
It's
said
really
Adam Lanza, they said, was a big fan of James Holmes of Aurora. They said was a fan of Columbine.
yeah, I want to say, like, that's a good point because there have been other mass trauma events or hoaxes or whatever from the past that are meant to create, certain impact on society. And as they fade from memory, be aware that they might want to bring that stuff back up. That might want to do the same thing twice. That's interesting.
And I think
And
that's another reason why Columbine was had. That was another reason why Columbine was singled out because around that time in the mid to late '90s, there were other school shootings, but that one was concentrated on for a reason for as long as it was. You ever think about that? Like, it was literally the 9/11 of those kind of
yeah,
shootings.
why does Hitler's birthday fold into that?
No, but I mean just the impact of like how
Yeah.
9/11 was like the be all end all of terrorist attacks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Columbine
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like always
Yeah.
gets cited as as the original, the OG.
Yeah, and then it's a touchstone. It's like a relay. The other ones are like relays into the future, beaming
Right.
the signal further forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I do wanna warn people about, and I'm gonna have to do this on the regular, is there was this FBI document where
Sorry.
they said it's no problem. They're going to target traditional Catholics. Have you heard that? To do
You had
stuff
mentioned
like
it the
yeah,
other night with Tiger. Yeah.
yeah, you gotta tell people because I know somebody who was immediately upon that memo getting released was somebody was trying to set him up. It was a priest I used to know in when I lived in Atlanta, and anybody who like did the Latin mass or whatever. But he told me a story that was crazy.
Like
Just
they want to.
beware of strangers with guns. Let's just put it that way. Don't talk about guns. Don't tell people you have a gun.
Well, yeah, I mean, you probably shouldn't. That's a good rule of thumb anyway, in general. But yeah, I'm not. I'm not actually following it. You're saying that anyone who's
I'm
Christian
saying
or Catholic,
if you're so this is what I think the scenario is. They go into a church, a target church, traditional Catholic church, especially one that has like a Latin mass.
okay,
They call them rad trad cats, like radical traditional Catholics, but I feel like that's a little bit redundant. I mean, it's just traditional Catholics are considered fucking radical. But what are
right,
you radically unvain? Like I don't really understand. So they find them and then they'll go to a church like that, they'll start asking around, see if anybody is a gun collector, if they want to go to a gun show with them, if they want to trade guns, if they want to go shoot together, and then either invite you to the wrong place at the wrong time, swap out your gun, have you load their magazine or whatever with your fingers,
and your
and
prince, yeah,
yeah.
setting you
So
up to be something, a fall person
right,
down the line.
that's one of the things I think they might do, and it really troubles me because they specifically said they were going to do it this year. The FBI said they were doing it this year, and they were targeting Catholics. And I'm not saying I just because I'm Catholic, I care more about Catholics. I'm just saying
No, I know,
we
yeah,
know with specificity what they're doing. The same thing if they said it was Lutherans, I'd be telling you like
right.
Lutherans. But feel like Catholic people probably have a little bit of a Catholic audience, and you should just beware.
Why are they allowed to keep doing like these setup
They have
jobs?
total, they just have total control of the airwaves. Like what we have to, I think that's why I feel like the answer is in like extreme. Um, I think you have to be very disciplined in just always doing the right thing. Like like the Bill of Rights and the Ten Commandments. Like you don't
Right,
need to believe in false flags. You don't need to believe what I'm saying at all. But when it comes to politics, make sure that whatever they're coming at you with does not violate the Bill of Rights. And
right.
with like your own personal stuff, just make sure you're following the Ten Commandments and do things like corporal works of mercy, spiritual works of mercy. Keep yourself right,
Right.
and I think if everybody did that, we would be we'd be invulnerable as a people. If
Yeah, no,
you just
I
held
agree
your
with you.
standards there, then it's the propaganda is there to get you to lose a grip on your principles.
Right.
I mean, that's what a false flag is for. You are in danger. It is self-defense to take away other people's rights. It's like it's not. It's
Right.
not self-defense day. And new shit does not happen. The Constitution, they anticipated everything from terrorists, which they called pirates,
Yeah, yeah.
to to the government infiltrating, spying on you in your own house. Like it's there. So I just said, like, beware,
Beware. Yeah.
be careful, be careful out there, be careful out there, Chris. So what are we gonna do next?
Well, we got Vegas. We got the DC
Yeah.
sniper. Sniper is another one
Oh
that
yeah. I
yeah.
should bring you a couple. I did the Navy Yard shooting.
You did?
Miriam back in the when it came out, I did. Yeah.
Okay, because there were a few that came out all at once around the same time, right? It
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
Wisconsin Sikh shooting, and it was
I
right
didn't see that
around.
one.
It was where literally there were. It has ties to 9/11. Let's just say that it has
Oh,
that, and there, we got Fort Hood. I always wanted to
yeah.
go in deeper with that because that, like Virginia Tech, had different locations with other shooters.
Yeah.
And so we got
Interesting.
that, and the Navy Yard came like kind of on the tail end of that one, and they
Dude,
all
yeah.
had like 3 suspects like
Yeah,
involved.
if you want to, you're so good at web archive, and my website is just pock marks with bullet holes. Like, it's just every time I get it together, it just falls apart. So I have all of my old blog posts and everything are somewhere deep in the web archive. But I did a lot on the Navy Yard shooting, and the other one was Miriam Carey, who was absolutely riddled with bullets outside the Capitol, and they stood
I'm
up in
not
the
familiar.
Capitol and gave a big round of applause to the cops who murdered that woman. Who they took her baby out of the car and they just absolutely murdered her.
Oh, I have heard about that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
Miriam Carey. I can't remember what other ones because I only looked back then. And once they shut the internet down on February 14th, 2018, I stopped bothering to try to dig in.
Well,
Because we know just by looking at it.
you got, we get this. Believe me, there's like Richard Reed, the shoe bomber. That's the whole thing. You got,
Oh, my father said he was. Oh, Richard Reed. I thought you were talking about the guy in the Atlanta Olympics.
oh, that's, yeah,
Yeah. My
uh,
dad, from the day one, he was like, that guy is innocent.
he
That
was,
guy is innocent. Yeah, and he was.
yeah.
And I got my truth star from my dad.
Was it Richard Pearl or no?
Yeah. No, Richard Pearl was he was a peanut guy.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, but the Atlanta Olympics was actually about that bombing and everything was at the tail end of the TWA Flight 800.
I did that one too.
You did TWA Flight 800?
I mean, I looked into it. It
No,
was
but
taken
no.
down by a U.S. missile.
Did you ever hear about the video phenomenon?
I knew people who were on that plane. That really did go down.
No, 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 no.
Yeah, I
I
worked with
believe.
people. Yeah.
Did you know that there's a phenomenon that I've been? It's like actually one of my core things. That there's evidence out there and there's witnesses out there that claim they saw footage aired either on CNN or MSNBC or the local New York One cable channel footage of the missiles taking the plane out, and the footage disappeared and was never seen ever again.
I believe that
And I'm
because that's definitely
fascinated
what
by
happened.
yeah, no, I believe that. But yeah, TWA and JFK Jr., those 9/11, obviously, and Columbine, those are my things. But
Yeah.
I was going to say we could always go into the anthrax thing. Never really got resolved.
I never got into that one. You'll have to give me.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You'll have to do that because I'm kind of retired when it comes to deep research. I can't.
yeah.
I did enough, and I'm telling you, you can give me 10 different events, and I can probably tell you which ones are false flags.
Right.
Just give me anything. Give me the picture on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. I mean, if it's framed, if it's composed like a real photographer would compose it with, like
Right.
in like I'm like, that's fake. That whole thing is fake. That didn't happen. But anyway, so I don't do the deep research anymore. We'll have to dip and we'll have to do false flag flashbacks.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
should be our thing.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Okay, so thank you so much. You're a hero. The show must go on. I really respect that. And look at all these people who came to listen and watch. And I just think that's great because we had a few hiccups, but we always have fun. Half of the fun of doing this show, now that I do it live, I love doing it live because people show up and we chat and it's just fun. It's just, I live in LA, I need human contact.
Right.
I need to talk to real people like you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. You should hang on, Chris, because I need your stream to upload. So I will say goodbye to everybody. I am Monica Perez. This is Chris Graves. Where can people find you? And then we'll step out.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, basically. That's at Seagraves Mass Guy, and I have a link tree there, and I have a couple of donation links. And
oh yeah, you are short of cash, are you not? Are you living in your car, Chris? You don't have to answer that question, but let's get you some money.
Yeah, well, yes. Thank you for having me, Monica. I appreciate it.
Okay. I'll check out your link tree and I will donate right after the show. I've been doing that lately, so I'm happy to do it for you. Thanks, Chris. Hold on a sec.